Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for attending our awareness session today for Global Continual Improvement Award, the 13th cycle 2023. This year, our Global Award is conducting under the theme of the role of continuous improvement in driving sustainability. We would like to welcome our speaker, Mr. Walid Mazen, the Continuous Improvement Subgroup member. Mr. Walid.
Yes.
How are you today?
All good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Walid. Yeah, you can start.
Okay, thank you very much. So welcome everyone. For the next hour and a half, we will be talking about an awareness session to explain briefly the criteria for each of the categories of the award, and we will give a brief about the award itself. So let's start into the slides. So the key themes is definition. What we're going to cover is the definition of continuous improvement subgroup. We'll give you a bit of an idea of the Global Continuous Improvement Award, and the theme of this year, the 13th award, is the role of continuous improvement in driving sustainability. And then the last part is categories of the Continual Improvement Award. So the 4 different categories and what are the criteria. So definition of the subgroup of continuous improvement. The mission of the group is we promote and honor the ongoing efforts of organizations globally in the field of continuous improvement and leadership, setting standards for sustainability and sharing best practices to achieve excellence in performance. The group vision is we aim to enhance regional and global practices of continual improvement and leadership. So the whole idea of the subgroup of continual improvement is to make sure organizations are aware of what the continuous improvement methodologies, different practices, and how to promote them and give them the recognition they deserve for the effort, the hard work that they've put to achieve the results that they aim for. Here's a very brief of the group members with the president, Mr. Mustafa Al-Blushi, and the Vice President Colonel Samira Al-Ali, and then the rest of the group members, which is a diversified group from different backgrounds and different nationalities to help with understanding how continuous improvement can be achieved and sustained. What we're going to give a brief now is about the Global Continual Improvement Award and the theme of the role of continuous improvement in driving sustainability. So with the COP28 happening in the UAE, there is a focus on sustainability globally. So the theme for this year is how does continuous improvement link and help with sustainability, and how can we benefit from these 2 initiatives in our organizations? So with focus on sustainability, this year, there will be an extra, let's say, points and extra focus on organizations that utilize the continuous improvement effort in their organization with sustainability. So you can get added value and extra points related to this, linking both topics and highlighting how they are linked and how they benefited the organization. Some of the tools and some of the concepts or methodologies that you can use to highlight this is utilizing the PESTEL, the SWOT analysis, identifying energy savings, transportation, and how you could use technology or artificial intelligence trends to help you in the continuous improvement and sustainability within your organization. The focus will still be emphasized on continuous improvement. Okay, so do not get distracted and talk about and highlight sustainability. It is extra points and the theme is about sustainability, but still remember that this is the Continual Improvement Award, and there is a huge focus on that element, on how do you define the problem, how you identified the current state, and how did you go through the methodologies on achieving the results that you have achieved. So with the theme being extra value, but that doesn't stop you saying, if you haven't done anything related to sustainability, you are also recommended and encouraged to submit your, let's say, projects, activities that you've done related to continuous improvement. The aim of the Global Award for Continual Improvement is to start off, it's a way for you, your organizations on how to carry out self-assessment to identify how did you perform against criteria, and depending on the category that you would like to submit in, which is Kaizen and innovation, best practices in management, happiness and engagement, Lean, Six Sigma. So these are the 4 categories. So it's a starting point for you to look at, okay, what does recognition mean? How can we achieve this by assessing yourself? The other point is getting an outside point of view on how you performed, what you've done. So an external evaluator will look at what you've achieved, what you've done, how you presented it, the methodology of what you've carried out, and they would look into where are the strengths, where are the weaknesses, or what can be improved, and according to that can help with giving you extra feedback or understanding of how your performance is and what can be better related to what you've carried out. Also, some of the other points is using the reference of the framework. So this is basically the award itself has a framework on how you need to think, what you would need to submit. So it gives you a bit of a reference on how do you carry out the continuous improvement, how do you carry out activities within your organization. So it can give you insight on the steps that you need to follow to build the continuous improvement culture and achieve the results that you're looking for. From a monitoring and evaluation performance related to the implementation of the operational plan, it's basically helping you to say, okay, once you've done this, how do you monitor? How do you check that the implementation has been carried out? It has been successful. Have we achieved the results that we're looking for? So it's not about, yes, tick in the box. We've done a project, we've achieved the results, let's move on. It's how to make sure that whatever changes that you've done in the organization are embedded, are achieved, and continuously benefiting the organization and the people working in there. Agreement on the quality of performance, the evidence and proofs that need to be monitored. So again, once you've identified the process or the concept of monitoring following the implementation, okay, it's highlighting for you the criteria on what KPIs, what elements do you need to check, keep track of to say, has the implementation, has the change that has been carried out working, achieving the results we want, and how can we make sure that we are successful in our implementation. So it's not about just following and monitoring, but it's making sure that you're monitoring the right things, the right way, and with the right people to make sure that you have achieved the results or achieve the results that you're desiring in your organization. The scope of participation, again, the reward itself is open for all organizations. Some of them listed here, governments and semi-government sectors and local authorities, private sectors of various types, government and private sector from outside the country, and Gulf Cooperation Council, which is GCC countries. So we welcome and we encourage any organization globally to apply to this reward. It doesn't make any difference where you're from or what background you're in. If you're manufacturing, if you're service, if you're public sector, whatever your organization does, it's more than welcome to be recognized for the efforts and the work that they carried out and get the recognition you deserve. The interconnection between total quality and organizational excellence. So these are two concepts which are interlinked strongly, and there is a huge correlation between them. So Continual Improvement Award is related to the quality that you achieve in the organization. And when we talk about quality, We talk here not only about quality of service or quality of a product, but also the quality of the environment of the organization, the quality of the people in the organization, the quality on how things, systems, processes are carried out in the organization. So we work, and the evaluators work on giving that recognition, identifying the quality, not only on the results that you've achieved or the activities you carried out, but what is the mindset, what is the systems, how does this organization present itself? So quality is an important element, and this links to the organizational excellence. By achieving the high quality standards across different parts of the organization would guarantee excellence in the organization. So evaluators will consider conducting some evaluation, and sometimes it will require some visual meetings in some cases, depending on the scenarios. So if it requires to get further evidence or to get further understanding of what did the company do and how did they do it, they would conduct meetings over a Zoom or different means to identify and clarify the points that they need to clarify. So we come to the 4 categories of continual improvement award. First one, best practice management, Kaizen and innovation, Lean Six Sigma, happiness and engagement. So you are welcome to submit however many cases or projects in any of these categories. You can apply multiple in one category, or you can apply several again in different categories. So there is no limit to how many applications that you can submit or projects that you can submit. Wherever you think that this is a project that can showcase your implementation, your achievements, you are encouraged to apply and submit a case for that to get that recognition and have a chance to be recognized on a regional and a global platform for the work and the efforts that you've carried out. So briefly, before we jump into each of these categories and look at the criteria for what each category is, let's look at the definition and what is the general concept of each category. So when we look at the Kaizen and innovation, this focuses on the continual improvement as a foundation and incorporates innovation throughout the organization. So how do you carry out the improvements, innovation, and how do you sustain it and make it a theme, culture in the organization? And how can it be a successful way on making the organization better? When you look into the second category, Lean Six Sigma, this includes a specific methodology for problem solving and enhancing the quality of work within the organization. So it focuses on the methodology of Lean Six Sigma and identifies how can you handle projects related to quality or any problems that you have to systematically improve and solve that problem. Next is management best practices. And this is apply the best competitive and innovative management practices correctly, ensuring a connection to organizational performance. So how are you, as an example, benchmarking yourself? How are you introducing best practices in your organization, either adopted from an industry standard or what's happening globally, or even generated by you as an organization and saying, this is what best practice is. So when you're looking at best practice, it can be how you're adopting an industry best practice into your organization or creating your own standards of what it means to you best practice. Happiness and engagement, make sure to practice happiness and quality of life in the work environment, the organization, and the community. So how are you creating psychological safety, happiness, an environment where people are happy, satisfied, willing to do more because of the environment that you're creating in the organization that is promoting positiveness, and how does that create an impact on the business? So here it's not about saying, yeah, let's make people happy and just get them more smiling, but how does these initiatives create a link to the business outcome and the results that the business can achieve? Not only internally, but also happiness can be related to any stakeholders related to the organization. So it can be customers, it can be suppliers, government entities, anyone who is interacting. So when you're looking at happiness, it's internal stakeholders and also external stakeholders are involved. So when you look at, before we jump into the details of each of them, the requirements for submitting nomination documents include. So these are points that you need to take in consideration and make sure that you cover as you create the submission for each case or project that you send to us. And it can be like a checklist to say, have I done it or no? So you need to make sure that you have adequate and sufficient coverage of all criteria. So for each category, there are different number of criteria that you have to meet. So at this point, you need to make sure that you've covered all the criteria required for that category. All evidence should be provided along with the nomination document, or it will not be accepted without an accompanying evidence. So whatever the evidence that proves that this criteria has been met, okay, you need to make sure that it is attached or it is available for the evaluator to review. So when you look into this, to continue this point, considering the quality of the evidence, it can be meeting minutes, results charts, and data, releases, visual press material. So it can be different ways on how you present it. Even photographs of before and after can be evidence, but you need to even give a bit more explanation of the photos to explain what is presented, how is it referencing the change and the results that you're trying to provide evidence for. So with these are different approaches that you need to think of on how do you submit your evidence. Writing according to the standards and avoidance of spelling errors. So it's again important part of the criteria at the level of where you're competing to make sure that the language, the presentation is meeting high standards. So grammatical mistakes, spelling mistakes should be reviewed and make sure that everything is correct. When it comes to the font and for the size of the font, it's 12 using Dubai font is the recommended and required font. When you're trying to explain, try to be brief and to the point, where the document description for each main criterion should not exceed 600 words. So how can you showcase the change, the criteria, the implementation within a limited number of words? The evidence can be distributed in 6 attachments per page, numbered and organized in a way that facilitates the evaluator's reading and understanding of their interconnection. So in each page, there is a limit to how many attachments you have to have in it. And also you need to number them and reference them in a way that makes the life of an evaluator easy to understand and follow the evidence. Approval of the main committee is required for accepting the nomination document. So this is just a straightforward explanation. The participating entity can request an independent workshop, and nominal fees may be arranged for both members and non-members if requested independently. So other than the awareness session, which is for free today, if your organization requires an in-depth debrief or explanation to understand a certain category or the general 4 categories of the awards, you can request you can request a professional, one of our group members, to come and explain to you the details of the criteria, the requirements, and help you understand better how to do it, what would be needed, and what is required. And as explained, it can cost a nominal fee. Submission fees for the award categories should be paid to complete the final acceptance of nomination document. So you need to do the payments to make sure and guarantee that your nominations have been accepted. Consideration will be given to the nomination fees for rejected documents that were not submitted according to the criteria during the specified acceptance or rejection review period. So if you get rejected, so it can be reviewed, the fees that you paid for that documentation. So these are the, let's say, the checklist for your organization that you have to carry out for every submission that you do. Is it meeting the requirements? With this, it can help you to simplify and speed up the process and make sure that you have the right requirements for the reward, for reviewing your documents and making sure it meets the standards. So with this, we would jump into the first category, which is Kaizen and innovation. For each of them, we're going to go through the steps on what is required, and there is similarity in the initial or the first few pages of each category. So to explain to you Kaizen and innovation category, what are we looking for? It is a category that places a strong emphasis on improving the quality of life for customers and society through its process and services. So we're looking at how can the organization apply continuous improvement in its organization, be creative, innovate new, not innovation in new products, but new processes, new ways on how to handle issues, problems across the whole organization at different levels. So it can be the lowest level of the organization, it can be middle management or senior executives. How are they doing continuous improvement? How are they innovating to improve their lives, but also their customers or different stakeholders? The award aims to highlight the improvement implemented within the organization and lessons learned from challenges, mistakes, and learning experiences. So it's not about here's what we've done, here's the result, but it's also highlighting the journey that you've been through, how you've carried it out. In some cases, it can seem simple and easy when you look at an improvement that an organization did it. But behind the scenes, there might be a lot of arguments, difficulties, challenges that the organization had to go through to achieve these results. So it's part of it is highlighting how did you get to these levels, the good, the not so good, but also how did we learn from the not so good. How innovation has been fostered throughout the organization through employee ideas, customer feedback, and community partnerships. So when you're talking about innovation, it's not about internal creativity of the people, but how did the organization listen to the different stakeholders and basically incorporate that to the benefit of the organization and meeting the requirements of your stakeholders, customers. So how do we get, let's say, listen about complaints, issues, or ideas from our customers, and how can that be translated into an opportunity within the organization? Or how can we listen to our employees who are working in the organization and identify how can we embed that in our working methods or creating new products or services for our customers. So when you look at the Kaizen and innovation category, we have 8 criteria: identifying challenges, planning and execution processes, precision in execution, results and benefits, participation and engagement, standardization and alignment, learning and horizontal deployment. So these are 8 criteria that you need to fulfill information and evidence related to each of them to showcase the project, the success, the achievement that you've carried out. So when you start the document, the first page, this would be similar for all 4 categories. There will be a landing page which says the organization name, then the title of the category. If you want, you can add the organization logo, the team name, members, okay, the members who are working on the project, the team, if they have a name, and then you have to highlight one of these 2 boxes. Is it production or is it a service? Okay, so you need to pick one of these 2. Then you have a 1 slide, or can be a couple of slides where you talk about the organization, to introduce your organization and to give an idea about who you are and what you do. So a brief introduction which provides the product services that you offer to your clients, the number of locations and branches, so how big your organization, and you can add to it some extra information depending on what you would like others to know about your organization. So it's a part where you can promote your organization to others. So when we come to the first criteria, and it's about the problem definition, it is key element when you think about it. These, in all the slides that we're going to talk about when we talk about the criteria, these are key points, but it's not limited to only what's written on the slide, but it's a guideline and it's a helping point to say meeting these points is important for you to showcase the evidence and showcase the understanding of that criteria. So here in Kaizen, when you're talking about problem definition, it's important to describe the situation first, then set the challenges according to the organization methodology derived from the internal and external environment analysis. So what you're trying to do here is to identify what is the current problem, and is it spurring from internal issues or an external issue around the industry or the region that you're working in, and then how are you doing it? It can be a reactive or it can be a proactive issue or idea that you're thinking of, and basically how the studying and analysis of the service processes within the scope. So you're defining the scope of the project itself. When you come to innovation, it's a similar concept. When you're defining is identifying innovative opportunities and aligning innovation work with the organization strategy. So it's not about just creating something new, but how is it meeting the organization strategy, direction, what you're trying to achieve? You need to determine what are the resources, what are the budget limitations or issues that you are facing for you to be able to do that. How did this come all along? So the methods of discovering these new ideas, the relationship between identifying the challenge and the idea. So it's explaining to the evaluator and to others who don't have an idea about your project, what was the initial point? What is the starting point? How did you come to be aware of it? And what was the thinking behind coming up with new ideas to create it? The next is planning and implementation process. So it's not all ideas, no matter how great they are, they're still ideas on paper. So here it's how did you plan for the implementation, the execution of it, and what was the evaluation potential criteria for you to accept this new improvement, the new change of the organization. In innovation, what are the primary research and practices conducted and relied upon, linking between the operational plan and their efficient implementation? So how did you look into how are we going to do it? How did you clarify the idea generation? How did you design the innovation plan within a smart working environment with the difficulties, with the limited resources, with the challenges that you might have in your organization? How did you plan for that innovation? How did it get its acceptance? How did you go about the implementation process and how it was let's say, discussed, got buy-in from, let's say, senior management, or get buy-in from different stakeholders for you to be able to implement it and achieve it. Thoroughness in implementation. So here, once you've put the plan and the initial action, let's say, action plan for what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, here you're looking at the trial and error, the ideas of what you've done, the implementation, which is what was the actual steps that you've taken that showcase the work that you've done, the changes that you've embedded in the organization, the managing of the challenges and the analysis that you carried out to make sure that what you're doing is working, that is moving forward with the idea that you started off with. And with that, when you look at innovation, How did this concept become feasible? Because with innovation, the idea might be a revolutionary idea, or it's changing something that you've been working on for years in the organization. So how did you create, let's say, the acceptance, the feasibility? How did you come about with the implementation? Also, you need to identify with all new ideas, there's always problems, risks of failure, or not everything is as positive. There's always a downside to some of the ideas. So how did you handle them? How did you manage them? How did you overcome them? And also, what are the results of the experiments attempted? So usually when you start the implementation, you start on a small scale. So it might be with a small department or with few people. So how did you go about from a small group or a small scale into the cascading of the organization? So here in this criteria, it's making sure that you're showcasing the implementation, the actual doing, okay? And how did you document and how did you move forward with the implementation? Results and benefits. So now you've carried out all the implementation, you've done the activities. So what was the outcome? Is it meeting all the, let's say, initial standards, targets that you had? And here we talk about tangible and non-tangible. Okay, how did you incorporate feedback from different stakeholders, from different people in the organization about the implementation? Usually when you do something new, you change something in the organization, not everyone is accepting it. It's not that easy. So how did you listen to the feedback of the people who are resisting or the people who are not willing to do the change? And how did that change happen? More importantly, how did you measure the sustainability of the change that you've carried out? How do you guarantee that the change is lasting and fulfilling the results that you're looking for? So when the evaluators, when it comes to the results, they want to see information, not that we hit the target, we achieved it. No, but more importantly, yes, it's sustainable. It has been carried out and lasting for good as we move forward. From an innovation point of view, how clear are the key financial and technical outcomes of the innovation? And list other intangible benefits from customer satisfaction, benefits into society, institutional reputation measurement. So when you're talking about innovation, okay, how did that have an impact? Okay, not only on the organization, it can have an impact on different stakeholders. What was that impact and how did you measure it? And how did you get the feedback about the results of that impact from different stakeholders? Participation and engagement. It's important as you start the first slide, it says a team, but also this is the team who were, let's say, the project team or the implementation team, but there would be a wider team who is managing and making sure that this is working across the whole organization. So who were the participants? What were their roles? How did you get the engagement and the buy-in from different people in the organization? Again, highlighting what sort of input did they give, what sort of feedback others gave, and also the outcomes, the outputs, and the improvements according to their recommendation. So as you get the feedback, the engagement of different people in the organization, how did you listen to that? How did you incorporate it? You might, as an example, you might have done this in the morning shift and you have multiple shifts, night shift and an evening shift. So how did you get the feedback from the other two shifts who are working separately and maybe not listening to what the management or the project team doing? When you look at the innovation, it's focused on the program and initiative relevant to the achievement of the strategic plan and objectives that exploit available financial and non-financial results. So you're looking at the participation. How did people get engaged? How did they adopt this new ideas? What sort of results come out of these improvements? And the financial system needs to be reflected. So we're saying that, yes, not only from an implementation, but we're also, as an example, getting the financial department or different departments in the organization involved in their own way to highlight engagement and also validating the change and the improvement that happened from an innovation point of view. You come to the seventh, basically, criteria, standardization. Without standardization, there is no sustainability to the improvement or the innovation that you've done. So what sort of key changes did you do in the organization? Are there new policies? Are there new manuals that have been updated? What sort of changes have been put in procedures, ways of working? How did you make it the norm of how the organization is working? At this criteria, it's focusing on the steps that the team has gone through to make sure that they are maintaining and standardizing the change, that with different people working on that improvement or different members who can learn in the future about it as new employees or different stakeholders, there is a way to retain the knowledge, the improvement in the organization, but at the same time be able to use it as a document to work with the new standards, train and develop people. So what was the standardization used in the organization to make sure that this is embedded in the culture, in the process of the organization? And the last one is learning and horizontal deployment. So with this initiative, it doesn't need to be a whole organization transformation. So you can have a submission that says, we've done this in a certain department or in a certain business unit, but then what sort of learning can you benefit? How can it be cascaded or deployed? It can be something in a manufacturing environment, but it can be beneficial to some of the service parts or departments which are supporting departments. It can be a part, you might have different business units that do different things. So how can this change, this improvement, this innovation help the business as a whole? What sort of plan do you have or you can showcase on the deployment or the cascading of that improvement, that innovation across the different business units, different departments, different stakeholders? And also, with every improvement, it's important to have a reflection. What went well? What didn't go well? What did we learn from this journey that we've been on? So it's important to highlight these elements from a learning point of view, but also from a deployment point of view of the improvements that you have carried out. So that was basically about the Kaizen and innovation. What we're going to look into now is the Lean Six Sigma project. And this is, as we said, it looks at the methodology of the Lean Six Sigma, which is following the DMAIC approach, which is definition, measurement, analysis, improvement, and control. And it's a very focused methodology to look at how do organizations handle problems in a structured approach and how they can improve these issues in the organization, if it's a manufacturing or a service, and how they can improve quality by utilizing statistical analysis in some cases, where you showcase the current problem and how did you apply this methodology to solve the problem that you are facing. So it follows, the criteria follows the 5 elements of the DMAIC approach, which is definition, measurement, analysis, improvement, and control. So these are the 5 steps of the Lean Six Sigma. So you need to showcase in each of them the criteria related to defining the problem. How did you measure it? How did you carry out the analysis, the improvement plan, and what you've done as an improvement? And then finally, how do you control and maintain the improvement? As explained in the previous category, the first slide is always going to be information about the organization. you also have to highlight the project period. How long was the project? Was it a 6 month, a 9 month, a year and a bit, or it can be a short project of a 2 months. So highlighting how big or how long did it take you to solve that problem. And also to highlight from is it a production or is it a service that you are writing about? So information about the organization. The first criteria is define. When you talk about the define, what you need to think of are these criteria. What is the project title? The business status currently? What is the problem statement? Okay, so you need to have a clear problem statement. Who are the stakeholders? And basically carry out the stakeholder analysis. What are the objectives of this project? What are you trying to achieve? Is it improving efficiency? Is it reducing cost? Is it customer satisfaction? So you need to highlight what sort of objectives is expected from this project. And it doesn't need to be one, it can be multiple objectives. Other expected intangible benefits. So it's not only about tangible benefits, which is the project objectives, it can be intangible. Who are the team members? Who is this leader of the project? And who is the project sponsor? And then what are the targets and dates to achieve this? So in the definition, it's talking about the planning, identifying the scope of the project, giving clarity on what the team needs to do, who are the stakeholders, who are involved, and how do we handle all this. So in the define, as part of the tools that you can use, again, for the people who are familiar with the Six Sigma, this is easy. For people who are not have not done Lean Six Sigma, you need to, these are some of the information that needs to be included in the define phase to cover the criteria. SIPOC, or copies, which covers stands for suppliers, inputs, processing, outputs, and customers. You need to have the customer voice, which is an analysis to say who is the customer and what is their problem. Quality necessities, which is critical to quality, and the big wise output variables. Stratification and prioritization of outputs. So what are the whys and what are you trying to solve? And then the project boundary and project scope. So where are the boundaries of the project? What's included in and what's not included? In the measurement phase, it's straightforward. Input chart, processing and output, IPO. So what are the inputs? What are the outputs? What are you measuring? How did you collect the data? What data did you require? What data did you collect? How do you guarantee the reliability and the information that you have collected? So it's showcasing that whatever you have worked on is based on facts, on data, on information. It wasn't based on people's opinions, and more accuracy is done from that point of view to make sure that the data is correct and reliable. And to talk about this is the measurement system analysis. How can I tell that my data is reliable? I can base my decisions analysis on the data that we have. And then assess the process capabilities, which is part of the statistical analysis. Okay, basic operations capabilities. What was the capability of the process before and after, or basically before the analysis? What was it before the improvement? As you collect the data and everything, the next step is analyze, which is making sure that all the information that you collected, you start to analyze it. So you need to showcase in the analyze process a detailed appropriate operations map of what is the process, how was it carried out, what is the current state. Any waste identification, which is highlighting from a lean point of view, what is value added, what is not value added, what is wasteful activities. Identify the limitation bottlenecks of any flow. So where do you have issues in the process, in the problem that you are solving? How can you identify it? What sort of issues that you're having that is stopping you from achieving the results that you're wanting to achieve? You need to identify appropriate process risk analysis, such as failure patterns and impact. So one of the tools that you can use is the FMEA, failure mode analysis. The way to identify root cause, such as through hypothesis testing. You can use the 5 whys, you can use the fishbone. So these are all different tools that you can utilize for analyzing the problem. You can use different tools to verify the issues, the causes of the problem that you're trying to solve. So in the analyze, it's important to showcase what tools you used, how did you use it, and how did you come to the results of saying what is the real root cause of the problem that you would need to start to fix. Once you've identified the root cause, once you've identified where the problem is, you move to the next point, which is improve. Okay, we know what the problem, we've reached the point where we're clear on what it is. Now you want to start to think, how am I going to eliminate it? What do we need to do differently to fix the problem that we're facing? And here you're looking at from an experimental attempts using experiment design, possible solution based on the root cause, using creative thinking or innovation, and prioritizing the solutions. So here you're starting to showcase the new ideas, the new ways of working. How did you come to consensus with the solution that you've implemented? How was it? How did you come up with that solution? Okay, and then what sort of improvements that have been put in place and implemented. In this level, at this stage from the criteria, this is where you showcase the solution that has been implemented, the solution that has been adopted, and how successful it was in the implementation. And at the same time, you're showcasing how did you get to that point. And implementation plan, which is what I've just briefly highlighted. What was the pilot implementation plan? How did you analyze the risk with the implementation? How did you avoid that? What sort of measurements did you put in place to identify that this new implementation is working? You're collecting the right data, which is similar to what you've done in the measurement phase. On the current situation, we want to do the same thing with the new solution, new idea. And as you move forward, how do you scale it up, the implementation? If it was on one machine or if it was in a small department, how do you cascade it across multiple machines or multiple departments if that's the case? How can you carry out the risk analysis from making sure that no impact, negative impact or side effects of the implementation can impact different other departments? Here, it's sometimes what happens is, what we try to look at is how do we guarantee that the implementation of this solution is not about pushing the problem to another department or shifting it to another area. It's about making sure that we are solving the problem, we are meeting the required criteria to eliminate that issue, that problem, and have a real improvement to the organization. And then the last criteria related to control. And in the control phase is basically, we've implemented everything. How do we document, identify the new procedures, and make the working instructions for people to follow and make sure that these improvements are sustainable? It's identifying the control plan X's and outputs of inputs of X's and outputs of Y's, checklists, fault checks, control charts. How are we managing and how are we controlling all these elements to make sure that this improvement is sustainable? Again, similar to what we've discussed in the Kaizen and innovation, it's always about the sustainability, the continuity of the change and the improvement. Then you need to highlight what are the specific and proven financial benefits of the project, what are the intangible benefits of the project. So as you went and described the journey, the elements, and showcased the evidence of what you've done, the starting point of where the problem is, the results and the targets that you reached to, how does that reflect from a benefit point of view for the organization? Tangible and intangible. Did it make life easier? Was it having a positive impact on people working, different stakeholders, stuff that you might have planned for, and even stuff that might have occurred that you weren't aware of, but you found that there is a benefit to it. And then the replication potential. If this project is possible, how can you repeat it on different machines, on different parts of the business? So where can we benefit from this project in different areas in the organization? If you have multiple sites in different countries, how could this again be implemented on different sites in the different countries that you operate in? And then summary of the improvement, comparison of before and after, tangible, intangible benefits, learned lessons, redundancies carried out, identified opportunities. So what comes next? So as we close this project, as we reflect on what we've done, what we learned, okay, what is the next stage? What do we need to focus on? What did we learn? Where can we benefit from not just replicating this, but what's next for the organization? The third category is happiness, and this talks about the leading institution which focuses on achieving results and outcomes that delight all stakeholders, actively contributing to the happiness of individuals and society, and enhances their quality of life in a sustainable manner. So this is looking from a people side, okay? How do we make the people working for the organization, different stakeholders, happy, okay, and achieve a positive life? And this is looking at the quality of life in the working environment, quality of life for services and customers, the impact of quality of life on society. So when you're thinking about this, if you're a manufacturing organization, how does your factory, your manufacturing site, having the people happy and satisfied? If you are a service provider, as an example, a banking or a financial institution, or you are a healthcare institute, okay, how do you create happiness for the people working for the organization, but at the same time the customers who enter your organization and receive the service that you provide? So it's from different aspects, different elements. The focus and the starting point that we expect from you is to start with the employees that are working in the organization, but we don't limit it to that. You can think of happiness across the different stakeholders of the organization. It follows a similar approach that we've discussed in the two previous categories. You have description of the initiative, development and implementation, evaluation and improvement, standardization and consolidation, and then horizontal development. So it follows a similar path to the two previous categories. First slide is information about the organization itself and the teams, choosing if it's a service or a product, then an overview of the company itself, and then in the first, initiative description. So to give an idea about the initiative that you have implemented that created this positive and happiness in the organization, what is it? Give us an idea about it. Also think of what has led to this. Was it a new idea from someone in the work, or is it a problem or a complaint that has been happening from different, let's say, employees or customers that generated this initiative, that you decided to take a different approach to that improvement? How did the communication about this initiative with the human resource or the relevant departments to make sure that it came to life and you started to work on it? How do you incentivize people to come up with these ideas, but also how did you reward and create these initiatives in the organization for people to be proactively and willingly sharing these new ideas on how to make it a positive, more happy environment for the employees or the customers? Development and implementation. So as you have different initiatives, you might have multiple initiatives. So how did you choose this initiative? What was the evaluation criteria? How did you agree to it? What sort of, let's say, critical thinking of this idea on what do we do and how do we need to do it? When you're thinking about providing a happy and attractive working environment, okay, you can think from initiatives from a safety point of view, from a health point of view, well-being of human resources point of view. So when you're talking about happiness, positive environment, it's not about just satisfied and happy, but it can be from a health point of view. It can be a safety point of view that creates a positive environment, makes people more happy. It can be innovation and balancing working and personal life as a library and a sports hall, areas to stimulate thinking and creativity. So these are different examples of what you can think of, or what some of these initiatives could be that can fall under the category of happiness. Also, adopt a system of incentives and transparent and equitable systems of career development to ensure equal opportunities. So if that's an initiative or it's a part of how you measure the criteria, this is part of what you need to think of showcasing in the development and implementation. How do you integrate it into your current systems, current policies? What did it need to go through to come to fruition, to become an initiative that has been implemented? Dua, do we take a 10-minute break or do I just carry on?
Well, I believe if you can carry on so we can have a Q&A at the end. Thank you.
Okay, so let's carry on. So when you come to assessment and refinement, okay, what are the main results? Quality and quantity. So it's from qualitative and quantitative point of view. So as an example, the percentage of increase in staff happiness, satisfaction. So are you doing staff engagement? Okay, are you doing some questionnaires or some index that highlight the happiness of people in the organization, satisfaction, engagement? How many ideas, okay, are coming from people in the organization? So when you're assessing this, showcase these. Is there any correlation between the happiness index and the customer satisfaction? So these initiatives, what results in a positive environment in the organization, isn't having a reflection on the business results. The implementation mechanism to measure human resource satisfaction on a regular basis. So it's not just a once a year or just a trigger where you say, I took a measurement and yes, we are. But are you doing a regular review of how satisfaction, what is the people feedback and how they're achieving this? You're also wanting to consider in the assessment and refinement is the evaluation and simulation that people share information, their experiences, their knowledge. How am I encouraging employees, different stakeholders to come up with these ideas, how to share these ideas with us to make sure that the business is moving forward, creating a more positive environment, and also importantly can be a more psychological safe environment where people are willing to share and happy to share their ideas. The next, standardization, where it's how, once we have this initiative, once we have this change in the organization from a happiness point of view, how did you standardize it? How did you measure it? How do you link it to the KPIs, to the performance? So how did this initiative create the positiveness? But then how did this change becomes the norm? So the people in the organization do not fall back to the old habits or the old behaviors or the old processes on how they carried the work or the activities that they're doing. So how can we sustain this? Also, what are the lessons being learned from trying to realize the vision of the entity in creating happy work? So if there is a strategy or a objective in the organization, how did this initiative contribute to it? And how can we make sure that it's sustained with that level? Also, are you measuring yourself against different initiatives, different organizations, industry standard, or competitors or different organizations within the same industry or similar industry to say, how well are you performing? How well are you doing? And how well are you collecting this information to maintain that new standard that you've created from a happiness point of view? Horizontal development is, can we implement this across in different areas of the organization, different business units? How can we promote it within our industry, within our, let's say, environment, different people benefiting out of it? So how can this become a standard within the organization or within the industry? How can people learn from it? How do you retain this knowledge in the organization? Okay, how is it documented, and how can people be going from, let's say, what they used to do into becoming advocates and promoting this new initiative in the organization to help promote it across? The last category that we're going to talk about is best practice management. And the best practice is basically identifying and benchmarking what is the focus on how best practices that organization try to adopt are interconnected with their operational strategy and plans, and ensure that their outputs are seen through key performance indicators. So how do you make sure that you generate a best practice? By either adopting an industry standard or creating your own best practice. And this is from local practices in state or principality, competitive practices, or entrepreneurial practices. So how do you build a best practice, and how did it become a best practice? The criteria for this falls under 8 criteria. Summary of practice, identifying problems and challenges, strategic linkage, individuals and resources, application and implementation, engagement stakeholders, key results and benefits, lifelong learning. So I'll just skip these, which is basically the same as the previous categories. So the brief, an overview of the best practice. So whatever the best practice that you've adopted, give us a brief, explain to us what is it, how does it work, what's the idea behind it. So however you want to explain it to us, feel free to give us an idea about what is this best practice. It can be with pictures, with some documents to highlight what you're trying to say is a best practice. And remember, when we talk about best practice, this is something that others can learn from, or others can think, this is great, we want to adopt this best practice. So this is where you tell us about the best practice that you're proud of, that you've implemented, you've adopted. Problem identification and challenges. Similar to what we've discussed previously, best practices come from basically an issue or a problem that we have, and then we want to figure out how can we solve it and how do we get away from it, and then we achieve a new state and it becomes the best practice. What are the challenges that have led you to think of a solution and to reach this best practice? What data, knowledge, and facts have been used to identify the problem? Okay, so as the previous slide, you give us an idea of the best practice. This is What is the 0 point or the datum that you started to say, here we have a problem, here it doesn't need to be a problem, but it might be an unsatisfied situation that you want to change or you want to become better, okay? So you started to think, how can we improve it, enhance it? So what initiated the best practice journey? The strategy, it looks at how is the strategy of the organization and the practice and methodology in selecting the area that you want to work in. The knowledge of the global, the local, the industry, okay? Because the best practice can come from different areas. So where did you look for this solution? What sort of strategy did you follow to try to figure out what is the best practice? What sort of research, learning from performances or results that you've done internally or externally that led you to find out about this best practice? What sort of adoption or flexible and fast approach that you followed to come to this best practice and achieve it? When you look at people and resources, who was involved? Which are the different stakeholders in the organization or the different levels in the organization that contributed and worked towards making sure that this best practice come to life, become possible? What sort of effective revenue, development, and expenditure been involved to achieve this best practice? How did it work on achieving basically resources in achieving the productivity, reducing consumption? So which areas did it impact? And at the same time, what sort of people were involved in doing this? Build, implement, and adopt the integrated system of financial governance, oversight, and auditing to achieve transparency and accountability in the management of financial resources. So these are areas that you need to think of. So when you come to look at the criteria from people and resources, once you read these points, and again, this is not just related to this slide, but to all the previous slides that we covered, these are guidelines to help align your thinking, your approach on what sort of points that you need to think of to achieve this. So when you look at people and resources, what sort of different levels in the organization, different people, different departments that got involved, supported, helped, resisted sometimes, that or changed their point of view that led to achieving this best practice. Implementation and execution. What was the business plan and methodology for applying and implementing best institutional practices? What was the required plan methodology and the timeline for implementation of management best practices? The extent of the implementation. So here you're looking from an implementation point of view and thinking, how did we implement this best practice? How can we explain to people who are not aware of it, what did we do to reach to the point that we can call this initiative or this change a best practice? Stakeholder engagement, 3 questions to ask, and these are guidelines. What impact does the best management practice implemented have on stakeholders? How have stakeholders been involved? How has their support been won? What analysis has been done to determine the level of stakeholders' participation? So it's everything related to the different stakeholders in the organization or outside the organization, where some people would be pro the change or the initiative and some would resist it. How did the team, the organization, handle both to get this initiative of the best practice a success and to become a best practice? Key results and benefits, where you highlight the benefits of this best practice, financial and non-financial. The trend, if you have several months or measures that shows the best practice, if it's an increasing or even a decreasing result that you're expecting from it. And then comparing the results, if it's something related to an industry or a region, how does this best practice implemented in your organization reflect to the industry standard or to the regional standard of what that looks like? Learnings, lessons learned from applying the best practice, similar to what we've discussed in the previous categories during the implementation phase and during the sustainability. What have we learned? What did we acquire as knowledge, experience that we can implement in the future? With this, basically, I would like to thank you all for your patience and going through with us on all the slides and the categories, explaining the criteria for the different categories. And it's all open for Q&A. Dua, if we have any questions, please feel free to ask. Or if you have any questions from the participant, please put them in your Q&A or the chat, and we will answer them right now.
Thank you so much, Walid, for your informative workshop. Actually, we learned a lot of information today, especially for me. I learned a lot of stuff from you. So thank you so much for your time. Our audience, please drop your questions in the section of Q&A. We will go ahead to answer about it. Also, I received the inquiry from Mr. Sonel. I don't know if he's still available to speak. Otherwise, he can drop the question in the Q&A. Actually, the first question I received a while ago while you were speaking, one of the audience, he was asking about the requirement slides mentioned the main committee is from DQG. So he was want to clarify about this point.
So the committee is basically the DQG, and the committee is the members of the subgroup continual improvement. So that's the committee, and who basically review and approve everything. And it goes back to them to agree or disagree with, let's say, the requirement or the questions that have been submitted. There are evaluators, including the committee, who are subject matter experts in each of these categories, who would review and assess the criteria, and the committee takes the final decision based on the evaluator's feedback on how the performance and what sort of, let's say, evaluation has been conducted for each of the submissions.
Thank you so much. We have a question from an anonymous attendee. It's not showing the name. He's asking about, do we need to submit application in PowerPoint or in Word format?
The templates that I've gone through are the templates in PowerPoint. So you can download them from the website, and basically you have to follow the template of a PowerPoint to showcase the project or the initiative that you choose to submit. So it is a PowerPoint, the short answer, and it can be downloaded from the DQG website.
Thank you so much, Mr. Walid. The other question is, what is the time period of the project or case study will be considered for submission? For example, will a project completed 5 years ago can be considered for submission?
Abay, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, the time frame should be within the last 1-2 years maximum, or currently in the current year that achieved. So we're looking at maximum, let's say 3 years, which is 2023, 22, and earliest 21, but late 21. So we're looking at more relevant current projects. We're not looking at something, let's say, has been conducted 5 years as what you've written, or even longer. So we're looking at what is more relevant to and recent for the companies. And also, just to highlight, if any organization have submitted projects previously, these will not be considered. So it's not if you submitted the same project last year and it didn't work and you just modified it or enhanced on it this year, this will not be considered. So it needs to be something that has not been submitted to DQG in the previous years and recent projects.
I believe Mr. Sonel is raising his hand. He would like to speak. So I'm going to open the mic for you, Mr. Sunil.
Yeah.
Mr. Sunil, you can speak right now.
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum, Dua. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Alaikum salam.
Yeah, good to connect with you after a long time. Shukran for all the inputs. Just had one question. Each of the type of award has 7 or 8 kind of criterias or this thing. So for each, we have to write 600 words, right? Suppose there are 7, so we need to have 600 into 7, 4,200 words. Is my understanding correct?
No. Your understanding is correct if you want to use all the words limit that you want. So that is the maximum you want. But it doesn't say you have to have 600 words. We're saying maximum 600 words. So the less, the better, which is to the point. Because as hard it is to you to write the 4,200 words, okay, or however many words, it is hard for us to keep reading and keeping track of it from an evaluator point of view. So the less and more precise and to the point that you can convey your message, that would be better or the best. So it's hitting a balance between how can I remember, the evaluator has not been in the organization, does not know all the information that you have done in the project. So how can I convey the message in a very clear, simple way with a relevant number of words? So the 600 words is just a guideline to say, if you're going to go for wording and writing paragraphs, please don't exceed the 600.
Well, and last is the number of evidences, 6 evidences per kind of criteria. So we explain, let's say, problems or opportunities, and then we have another slide where we put 6 evidences. Is my understanding correct?
The 6 evidences is per page. So what happened is maybe previously some, let's say, participants who submitted put all the evidence in one page as attachments. So they put like 10, 15. Okay. So what we're saying is per page, as you go, you please limit it to 6 evidences, not more, and also number them and reference them to make life easy for the evaluator to review them. So you do not need necessary 6. You can have 1, which is more than enough, and it meets the criteria. So if you have multiple evidence, please limit it to the maximum of 6 and also the referencing. So that's what the 6 mean. It's not about basically we need 6 for each one. Again, you might have only 1. So where are you going to come up with the other 5?
Got it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Yeah. No problem. Dua, there is a question that says, what is the timeline for the award deadline for submission? So if you can, and the fees, if you can just answer that one.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Walid. Well, we have been decided to extend the submission deadline of the accepting the submission files till 15th of August. So you still have time till mid of August to submit your files and finalize all the process for the registration. Kindly visit our website www.dqg.org. Click on the logo of continual improvement, and then you will be able to access the page. If Mr. Walid stops sharing, I will be able to share the website for you so I can show you the process.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Walid. Thank you. Let me open the website from my side first. Okay. You can see my screen.
Not yet. It's a black screen at the moment.
Black, right? I don't know why. Let me try again. You can see the website right now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, perfect. So once you visit our website, www.dqg.org, you need to scroll down, and then you have two options, either to click on Apply Today or to click directly on the logo of the Award Continual Improvement subgroup. If you select the first option, which is click on Apply Today, it will take you to the page full of all our awards. So you need to select the award that you are looking to submit your in, which is Continual Improvement subgroup. You will select the page of the Global Continual Improvement subgroup, and then you will scroll down. As you can see here, all the information regarding the submission deadline and also the ceremony and accepting the files, it's showing here. Then you will scroll down. You will see the registration online button. You need to click on here and then fill the page with all the details and information about you and about your company and how many submission you will submit, which category you are interested in. Then if you want to download the guideline file in English or in Arabic, you have both options. Then you need to scroll down to download the submission template for each category, as you can see here. If you are interested to participate with us in English, so you need to download the English templates as per the category that you are looking for. After you're done from filling the template as per the explanation that we listened today to Mr. Walid, he's saying it. So you need to submit your file again in a PowerPoint format or PDF format. From this button, as you can see here, we have a click. You need to click on submit your file here. So once you click, it will take you to the page. You need to fill with your details and then upload your submission file. You can upload, if you are participating in the 4 categories, no need to click each time. You can upload the 4 files or all the submission in one process. Once you click here, I don't know if you can see the page of the submission.
Yeah,
Yes,
we can.
Okay, perfect. You will fill it with your details, and here you have all the freedom to upload or your file, which is, it will be 1 file per category. If you have more than 1 file, so you need to repeat the same process, and then you will click here to submit.
Excellent. Yeah, good.
Thank you. So let's go back to the question. If there is any questions from the audience.
So I'd just like to thank you, Dua and Mr. Walid, and appreciate all the time and effort. And this is one of the most sustainable awards. DQG has been managing it. So I'll just sign off and thank you. You all have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Sonel. I do believe there is no more questions here.
I think Abe
So far.
has his hand up.
Okay, Mr. Abe. Okay, just a second. Okay, I will let you. Okay, Mr. Abe, you can speak right now.
Yeah, hi, Dua. Good evening to you.
Hi, how are you? A long time also. We didn't see each
Yes,
other.
indeed. I mean,
Yeah.
when I accepted the invitation, then I thought about you. Yeah, you and Jishu. I can see
Yeah.
your name on the website. Nice
you.
hearing you again, Dua.
Thank you. Same to me.
Right. My question is to Walid. Walid, when you started, you talked about sustainability. That flavor of sustainability is added to this year's award, which is very good. I mean, when I hear that. So that's why I asked my question. When you talk about when we talk about sustainability, I mean, any company or a organization talks about sustainability. You want to see the trend, whatever you have implemented during a year or a quarter or whatever it is sustained and improved systematically and continuously, kind of a curve. So that's what I was curious to know, that okay, if my organization has done something, let's say 5 years back, and it shows year on year the benefits have been incurred consistently and as planned, so it is actually sustainable throughout these last 5 years. So that's what my question was. Basically, 5 years project will not be still accepted as a part of sustainability this year?
When we're talking about, let me clarify maybe when we're talking about sustainability is two elements. I've spoken about sustainability in the 4 categories, which is exactly what you're talking about. Whatever change that we've done is sustainable. But the flavor of the sustainability is looking at it from the environment, economical, and social aspects, which is like the ISO 14001, which is more environmental friendly activities. So that is from that theme, from sustainability. So when you submit, let's say, if you want to say this is a continued project where we have been successful and we are sustainable over the 5 years, the idea here is if you want to submit this project, it's what has been added to that project to move it forward and keep improving it. So if you turn around and say, I've done something 5 years ago, and we're still doing the same thing, but we didn't change and we didn't improve, unfortunately, at this point, then you're not showing continual improvement. But what we would expect to see from what you're talking about is, how did it enhance? How did people maintain it? And what sort of changes or tweaking to the system that started over the last 5 years that keeps it successful and keeps enhancing what we've developed 5 years ago? So how are we improving on that? So this would be more relevant than saying we've done something 5 years and we're still doing it. We're really successful. But what is important is to say, how is it maintained and how are we enhancing on it? It can be, again, on a different aspect. Yes, we've done it 5 years ago, but this project was like a small project in one department, but at the moment it's across the whole business unit, or it's across 5 different business units. So we have increased the scope of it. So we have a plan. We're showcasing how it's becoming a standard across the whole, let's say, different business units you have, different countries or different parts. So these are the elements where you need to showcase the continuous improvement. And this is when I said 5 years ago, well, it was 5 years ago. What changed over the last 5 years? Other than you're still doing it, you're still successful, you're still achieving the results from it. So I hope with this gives you a bit of clarity. It's not about saying, no, you can't. But what I've started 5 years, I built on. So year on year, we're enhancing it. We're doing some changes. So within 2022, 2023, okay, what changes to the system or the change that you've done that enhances it, takes it forward, creates new benefits to the organization, rather than saying we've done this 5 years ago and we're still working, it's still working.
Right. So if we are able to show that, okay, we have increased the scope of this project over the last 5 years and it's been going on, we are improving consistently.
Exactly.
So that qualifies for our submission then. Perfect.
Yes, of course. Of course.
Okay. Right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You are welcome.
Thank you, Walid, for your time. Thank you, Mr. Abi. Thank you, Mr. Ahmed. I would like to thank all the audience that for their time and sharing with us this workshop. We would like to inform all of you that this recording will be downloaded on all the social media channels of Dubai Quality Group by tomorrow, inshallah. And if you would like to recap about what has been said, so you can visit our YouTube channel to watch the live stream recording on our channel. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Walid, for your time today. It was a really informative session, and hopefully we will receive a proper number of applications this year. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Dua, and thank you everyone for attending today's session.
Thank you. Thank you, Walid. Thank you, Dua. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice night. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.